compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law, I wish to state that on March the 22nd, 2019, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township Bulletin Board, mailed to the Cape May County Gazette, the Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel Ledger, the Herald Times, and filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded up until the closed session portion of this meeting and will be available on UTTV Channel 97 and on the Upper Township website. I hereby direct that this announcement made a part of the minutes of this meeting. I would ask all to rise for the salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Barbara, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Coggins?
Here.
Mr. Pearson?
Present.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mayor Palumbo?
Here.
All members are present.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes from December 17th regular meeting and the closed session minutes, and also from January 4th?
Motion to approve.
Second. March.
Yeah, I think I'm on the wrong date here.
March
All
11th.
right, so from the last meeting,
Motion to approve on the last.
March 11th.
is there any corrections, omissions, deletions that anyone's aware of? All right, hearing none, would you call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
All right, so before we get into the report of the governing body members, let's we have some really good presentations this evening. For most of you that are here this evening, in one way or another, was affected by the fire that took place across from the Wawa. And I know that as we move through the resolutions, we will be talking about our first responders who, we think are second to none. But, every once in a while, and it happens a lot, we have individuals that just rise to the occasion and do the right thing and don't think of what they're doing. They just act, and they act in a sense of emergency to try and help others. So today, we are honoring first the Coxes for their heroic efforts, James and Stephanie, on the night or the afternoon of February 10th. So we have two resolutions. The Coxes are here. Can you come up, please? All worker.
Bruce, you want to bring them over?
Well,
Come on up, Stephanie.
so I'm going to read the resolution first. Whereas at 2:30 p.m. on February the 10th, 2019, dispatchers received several 911 calls reporting a structure fire at 35 Route 9 South and possible occupants entrapped on the second floor. While the firefighters were en route, Upper Township citizen James Cox and his daughter Stephanie Cox witnessed the fire in progress as they were passing by and without hesitation stopped to help. Whereas the exit to the second floor apartment was fully engulfed in fire, blocking the escape route for two occupants, James acted swiftly using his construction ladder from his truck. With Stephanie's assistance in steadying the ladder, they helped the two trapped occupants exit the building as the fire gained strength. Whereas James and Stephanie, with their quick thinking and courageous response, certainly prevented a dangerous situation from becoming a tragedy and saved the lives of the two occupants. The members of the Upper Township Committee are honored to recognize the heroic acts of James and Stephanie Cox for selfishly and with great courage coming to the assistance of fellow residents facing life and death situation. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Upper. This Township Committee expresses its heartfelt gratitude and admiration to James Cox and Stephanie Cox for their brave act and heroism. So congratulations. You and Stephanie, and this becomes a permanent record of the township record. So thank you so much for all that you've done.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And we're going to keep you here because we have a number of other first responders here that we're also going to recognize. So stay there, Mr. Cox, for 1 second. I'm going to call up all the whole gang, and then we'll let Chief Newman say a few words for us as well. I'm emphasizing few. Okay? I have long experienced some of Jay's very short comments that as the months tick away, he's still out there talking. So I'm really just kidding. But. All right, so, we heard the heroism of James and Stephanie Cox, but, there's also some real heroic efforts that took place during this first responder activity. And it's really, we do a resolution for this because it was a unique situation, but this happens every day in the township, and all of you do an unbelievable job. And it's because of you we all feel much safer as we go to bed at night or we're doing our daily activities, knowing full well that there's very trained and experienced first responders in the township. Excuse me, I have a cold, so I'm struggling a little bit here. Whereas at 2:30 p.m. on February 10th, 2019, the Ocean City Police dispatchers Jim Lowe and Chris Beals received several 911 calls reporting a structure fire. Whereas the Marmora Volunteer Fire Company and Upper Township Division of EMS were dispatched, and due to further reports of possible occupants entrapped on the second floor, Seville Fire and Rescue, Tuckahoe Fire Company, and the Ocean City Fire Department were also called for assistance. Whereas the members of the Upper Township Committee commend Ocean City dispatchers Jim Lowe and Chris Beals for calm and efficient actions, and Cape May County OEM Regional Communications Dispatcher William Mulligan and his staff members for their vital handling of the 911 call from one of the trapped occupants during the stressful situation. Whereas the Township of Upper also commends all of the Upper Township fire companies, as well as the neighboring fire companies providing backup assistance, our EMS personnel, our OEM personnel, and the New Jersey State Police for their quick actions in mitigating this dangerous incident. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township Committee expresses its sincere appreciation and commendation to the entire response team, including Ocean City dispatchers, Jim Lowe and Chris Beals, Cape May County OEM Communications staff and dispatcher William Mulligan, all of the Upper Township fire companies, all of the neighboring fire companies providing backup assistance, our EMS personnel, our OEM personnel, and the New Jersey State Police for their unrelenting commitment to the safety and security of our citizens and their selfless acts of bravery during this hazardous fire incident and in the performance of all their daily actions. So, congratulations to all of you. And I'm not sure if we can get everyone in a picture, but it would be like a Ripley's Believe It or Not, like how many we could get on here. So why don't you guys and girls please come up and let's see if we can get a picture. And thank you all. And we might be able to curtail Chief Newman's little speech while we're doing this.
You should be out front, Chief. Come on. You should be up front.
These guys are still talking. Why don't we, maybe some of you, hello Michael, why don't some of you guys come back here, because now maybe we can.
While you guys are getting organized for the picture, I just want to say, first of all, Mayor, and not to
That's okay, I have a cold today, so I can't even argue with it.
Chris Bellis.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
He's here, he's back there, the guy with the hair, the only guy here with more hair than me. So Chris.
And I apologize for butchering your last name.
Just for everyone's edification, if that is a real word, I want to acknowledge some things that happened. And this just doesn't happen overnight. What happened on that particular Sunday is a result of many, many years of putting together systems and policies and procedures in place, and this group of people working together in conjunction with the Township Committee. I just want to make sure that everybody knows this Township Committee has always supported Upper Township Fire and EMS, always supported our endeavors, and that's what makes days like, I mean, it's a tragedy on some people's part, obviously, but what we have put together over the years, everybody standing up here, it all came together. And I acknowledge Chief Prettyman and Captain Campbell back there as well, as part of the Ocean City Police Communications that work with us on a daily basis, and we have meetings all the time. The people that show up here, we have meetings all the time to make sure that this goes right. All too often, we're quick to criticize, and I'm not saying that anybody here does that, but quick to criticize what goes on out there in the public safety field. Not knowing the whole system that happens over the years, days, weeks, months, and years that have a day like that day when tragedy is striking for everything to fall into place like it should. I forget, Jim and Chris, maybe you can tell me how many, or Scott, or how many 911 calls did we get that day? For that call? You have
27, Chief, 27.
How many? 27. I'm sorry. You also have Lieutenant Schaefer in the back, who's in charge of Ocean City Communications. He's also the chief of the Siegel Fire Company. And 27 911 calls within a period of a couple of minutes. That's why they spilled over to Bill Mulligan and his crew at Kingman County Communications, and that's why he stayed on the line, was in contact with the victims of that particular incident. While we heard mostly Jim on the radio, little do we know that Chris is in the background making phone calls, answering additional 911 calls. And people who have not been there, it is pure chaos, and these guys make it easier, and make it easier for us to do our job. For example, one more quick thing, the Township Committee on
This was a
Wednesday night.
short speech, by the way.
On Wednesday night, as we do every month, the fourth Wednesday of the month, the fire chiefs, EMS chief, the OEM director, the committee liaison for township, we all get together and hash out issues before they happen. Usually state police are there as well, before they happen. That's why this stuff works in the end. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of the township committee backing us and realizing, you know, what our needs are and supporting us. And I think that goes for, we have Chief Schaefer here, Chief Potter, and Chief Carter as well. That goes for all of us. So we really appreciate it. We really appreciate the citizens of the township supporting us as well. So thank you very much, and that's all I'm going to say right now.
He doesn't want to.
So did we get all the pictures that we wanted to get? And again, I want to emphasize to all of you that on behalf of the Township Committee, we really do appreciate not just the day that you had this incident, but what you do year-round, because it's a training, it's an experience, it's an educational process that continues throughout the year. You just don't do this on a one-day basis and everything works. We realize the dedication. I know everyone has their particular night that they do their drills and their practices, and going through firefighter 1 and 2, how much training and time is required to get to that point. So thank you all for everything that you do, and we'll continue to support you in any way we possibly can. So let's hope we don't have too many of these congratulation things, though, because, you know, I mean, it's one of those things where we're celebrating a great success on with a very difficult situation. So, but thank you all again. You can go home now.
Before everybody leaves, we should announce this alcohol awareness month. We have to,
We asked him. He said no. Yeah. Now there'll be an echo in here.
not too bad, Jay, you only burnt 15 minutes.
Stop the mayor, I didn't want his cold to get worse.
Thank you.
Chief, like to salute you too, or what? You're going to stay for the non-profit portion in case anybody else. Well, you never know.
All right, so we'll move on with the agenda. Scott, do you have anything for us this evening?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, committee members. Just one thing tonight. Paul and I had an opportunity last week to attend NJ KIC, which is New Jersey Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Cell up in Freehold, New Jersey. This was a symposium that provided attendees with particular strategies, tactics, resources, and tools to help manage cyber risk in their respective organizations, in our case, the municipality. So it just gave us an opportunity to kind of brainstorm with, I would say there was probably at least 250 people from all varying agencies in this symposium, and it was very well presented, and we brought home a lot of good information.
Great,
Other than that, that is it tonight.
that's good. Barbara?
I just have one thing to report. We just finished our Gov Deals online auction. We had 5 items for sale. 4 of those items were sold. And the sold amount was $10,130. And these were items that were sold for parts or items that were in disrepair that, could no longer be used by the township, so.
And the 5th item we had, we pulled it off the auction, we're going to relist it.
Yes. That's good.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Daniel?
Nothing at this time, but we do have a number of items for the closed session.
All right. Paul?
Thank you. Just one item this evening. We had an email from a resident on Corson Tavern Road requesting us to work with the county in doing a speed study to see if the speed limits can be reduced. I did have a chance to talk to the county engineer, and his suggestion is because that section of roadway is anticipated to be under construction towards the end of this year, that the more appropriate time to do the speed study would be after the roadway improvements are completed. So he would just, he recommended that we hold off on making a request to do that until after the construction is done, and then he would most likely be able to put that into his workflow and do a speed study after the work was done.
Corson Tavern Road, it does have a huge speeding problem.
Yes.
But right now, if you speed, you're not, because of the condition of the road, you're not going to hold your steering wheel in your hand.
That is correct.
But there will be a problem when it's paved.
And I'm sure that we'll be reaching out to help get assistance from the state police and helping for some enforcement out there, because he did note that on the Dennis Township side, after the roadway was constructed, they did note an increase in speeding because they had a nice smooth road to drive on, and they weren't dodging potholes the whole time. So that's all I had to see.
Okay. Barbara?
I have nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
We're moving right along here. Committeeman Coggins?
And nothing for me this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Committeeman Young?
I don't have much of a voice left either, so just a reminder that we do have a Easter egg coming up April 13th. Rain date is the 14th, so everyone, it's open to anybody within the township. We have 4 different age groups, and the the Easter Bunny there, petting zoo and different odds and ends there for the kids. It's about a 3-hour afternoon, so other than that, that's it.
Okay.
Share
Deputy
them
Mayor
with,
Barr.
share them with Hobie.
Oh, Curtis Gable, Mayor.
Yeah,
You all set for spring cleanup then?
Yep, starting April 1st, I neglected to announce that, but thank you for reminding me. April 1st, we'll start our collecting our loose leaves. I just remind all residents to please rake those to the curb, and they should be free of any sticks or limbs. We will also be doing a tree trimming, collecting tree trimmings for brush, starting in Beasley's Point, and we'll work our way through the rest of the township. But all that will start on April 1st.
And it's on the internet.
Yes.
and that's a one-time around the township.
Yes, correct.
One round. That's all I have.
I think we need to make sure everybody understands that, so we don't get the calls coming back.
And then subsequent to that, if somebody bags or leaves and that kind of, that will continue to be picked up.
Can continue to be picked up, correct.
I have one thing, Mr. Mayor. April 8th at the Upper Township Middle School and April 9th at the Ocean City High School Library from 6:30 to 8 is a Ocean City Upper Township Municipal Alliance Committee puts it on. After Prom Committee is actually doing it. But Alcohol Awareness Month is April, and it's a short presentation, about an hour and a half, about substance and alcohol abuse for people with teenage children, parents, kids. Very good program, very beneficial, and it would encourage you, if you had children of that age, to take them there, and very educational. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I only have one thing. Today, Paul and I met with a solar representative because we had discussed in the past potentially doing something at the old landfill off of Butter Road. When there's a substantial amount of land there, the landfill is capped finally, and we're ready to do potentially something with it. And so we're just starting some preliminary, like reach outs to some different, folks to see what might be there as an opportunity to generate some additional funding. So we met and went over some things. There were apparently some contracts that have been put out in other municipalities, which we asked to have copies for, because I said, Dan, I'd like you to review them, and no promises were made, no commitments or anything like that. In fact, I also want to find out, if we have to do like an RFP versus some kind of contract or something like that. So, they're the things that we need your expertise on.
Wouldn't it be like our cell phone towers that almost have to bid them out?
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, sir.
Wouldn't it be like the cell phone towers almost have to request for proposal?
My initial reaction is it would have to be bid because there's more than one company and there's no, unless there's a special statutory exception.
And that's kind of what I indicated today. But I think it's worthwhile to look at potential opportunities because it could generate some, and some of the figures that he was talking about seemed a little bit substantial. I mean, good numbers for potentially the township, so.
The key to those type of contracts is how long they lock you in and what.
Well, and my concern
If it's
was,
exclusive, you have to buy the
and Paul
energy
can
from them.
attest to this, he said, well, normally they're 20-year commitment, and I said, 20 years from now, solar panels will be obsolete, they'll have some other type of technology, probably have that better technology 5 years from now. So, I said, they're the kind of things that I want you to look at and, make recommendations, because I pretty much told them that I was never committing to a 20-year commitment.
When we looked
because
at this 5
just
years
seemed
ago,
better
10
than-
years ago, the biggest problem was they would only guarantee the rate for 5 years, but you had to stay with them and exclusively buy with them for 20 years. And the reason the 5-year rate was only guaranteed is because that's when their political, governmental commitments to reduce their costs they didn't go 20 years, it only went 5 years.
And this is a new program now that this is really just really a land lease. So the first part of it is really not doing any of the electric in other words, we're not purchasing the electric from them at this point. So it's just really a land lease
Okay.
Yeah,
land
and
lease
it's
for that.
designed like.
20-year contract is a payback for the cost of the panels.
Well,
For
they
them
have,
to- no, for
they
them
have
to
venture
utilize the land.
capitalists that will fund this, so it's not anything that the township would have to put up from a monetary standpoint. But
We'll have to look
again,
at the contracts.
I think what we need to do, as we've always done, is to say, we take a look at this, and we want to make sure that there's value to the township before we would even move further with it, you know? I mean,
Generally, in the
we don't want to
initial
just do
years-
it for the sake of doing it, it's not going to create additional funds for the township.
The hook is the long term. In initial years, it's always beneficial to do it. So I'd have to look at it.
And then we also ask them about the blackout areas, what that generates. We're going through that right now with the field at the school, which in all the approval process was never brought to light to anybody.
Well,
That grid blocked out almost all of Petersburg.
And that's the advantage of this program. The state is actually looking at new rules for, it's called community solar. So that if you are in an area that has been blacked out, or if your house can't support solar electric, this would allow you to buy solar as part of this project as the same as if it was on your property.
Okay.
And have the same net metering benefits.
That would be beneficial.
of that.
I know a
So
lot of
that's
people
the
that were
advantage.
denied solar due to the field here.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why the funding is available, especially for like landfills and stuff, because it can be used for the community.
Okay.
And it's a reuse, and I don't even know if it's the right term to say redevelopment, but you could probably look at that as well, you know, for that particular area. So we have a lot of things to consider, but like I said, this was an initial conversation. It was more fact-finding than anything, but it's been something I've been asking Paul since they've capped it, like, you know, what can we do there to make it, you know, viable for the township? So just, you know, so we'll see what happens. And that's all I have. I don't know if I can talk much more.
Mayor, I forgot one thing.
Go ahead.
Okay. Coming this Saturday, March 30th, from 9 to 11 at Amanda's Field, myself and the Green Team will be out handing out free tree seedlings as part of Earth Day and Arbor Day that comes later in April. But this is the time frame that the DEP actually provides the free seedlings to us to pass out to residents. So we'll have over 500 seedlings to give away free to township residents between 9 and 11 at Amanda's Field.
What type of trees, Paul?
Usually a variety. They give us like maybe 4 or 5 different varieties. In the past, we've had white pine, Atlas cedar, red bud, some variety of an oak, sometimes a maple. It all varies season to season, sometimes dogwood. So you do have a variety of 4 or 5 trees that you can select from. And all of them are hardy for our area, natural tree, native trees, so that, you know, they don't really take a lot of irrigation once they become established.
Yeah, I would just encourage people to be aware where they plant a small seedling.
Yes.
It's going to be 30 foot tall in their power line if they're not careful.
Yes. We provide information with the seedlings so that they can, you know, get a feel for what the ultimate mature size of that seedling will be once it grows. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on with the resolutions. Barbara, if you would.
Item number 3, designating the first Thursday in May, a day of prayer in Upper Township.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 4, congratulating employee Barbara Grund of the Upper Township Public Works Department for her winning entry in the Upper Township Safety Award Program for the first quarter of 2019.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Carried. Item number 5, urging the New Jersey Department of Transportation to expedite the installation of safety improvements at the pedestrian crossing on Route 50 at milepost 6.69.
Move the resolution. Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Appointing J.P. Bainbridge and Associates and J. Paul Bainbridge as an appraiser for the Township of Upper.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Carried. 7, authorizing a contract with Battistini Consulting Services for engineering consulting services.
Motion to authorize?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion's carried. 8, authorizing an amendment to the shared services agreement between the Township of Upper and the City of Corbin City for municipal court services.
Move the resolution. Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion's carried. 9, granting the appeal of the street opening moratorium for Block 496, Lot 18.
Move the resolution. Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 10, appointing Frank Primavera as a part-time employee to the Upper Township Construction Code Office to serve as fire protection subcode official.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 11, authorizing a payment from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund of Upper Township.
Motion to authorize. Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 12, amending resolution number 12, 2019, that appoints various officers and employees to annual and specified terms.
Move the resolution. Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 13, amending resolution number 20, 2019, to confirm appointments to various positions required by the Atlantic County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund.
Move the resolution. Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 14, the public hearing. Public hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 2, 2019, an ordinance amending revised general ordinance chapter 25, emergency medical services of the Code of Upper Township.
So before I open it up to the public, does anyone in the Township Committee have any further thoughts or inputs on this?
No.
Hey, I'm going to open up to the public. This is a final adoption, or hearing and a final adoption of an ordinance that we have that addresses emergency medical services, some billing opportunities that are there through insurance and those kind of things. So is anybody here to address that particular ordinance? Let the record reflect that there is no public comment, so I'll close the public comment portion and entertain a motion for adoption.
I'd like to move we introduce ordinance number 2 of 2019. Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 15. This is also a public hearing. Public hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 3, 2019, an ordinance adopting section 3-19 of chapter 3 of the Code of Upper Township.
Okay, again, any further comments from anyone up here before I open it up to the public?
This is obviously our Knox box ordinance, and I asked the chiefs to be here if anybody had any technical questions on how they work, or, because...
So just for the public or in the audience, this is an ordinance that will ultimately require our businesses to have an emergency Knox box, which would be a key to facilitate our first responders to get into a particular commercial entity, rather than, in some cases, having to break the door down or break a glass. It's safer, obviously, for our first responders to be able to have access to that key to get into the commercial property. This box, the only ones that will have access to the Knox box, like master key, will be the fire company. So, they're, from an insurance standpoint, it follows all the statutory requirements and everything. And this is something that our first responder chiefs in our different fire stations and our EMS have requested this, and so we're acting on it. this evening.
Just so you're aware, it applies to all new construction and existing operations that modify or rehab, that have to get before our boards and get site plans.
Yeah, it's not going back in time, in fact, existing ones is obviously voluntary. The township buildings, we voluntarily installed them on all our township buildings. And I would strongly encourage people to, but I didn't want to burden, I didn't think it was necessary, and the chiefs and I talked about it, that it burden existing businesses if they chose not to. A Knox box, the cost is a couple $100 versus a new
I mean,
door.
I understand that, but I think that was part of the reason why I emphasized that there's a dual purpose here. One, for, most importantly, for the safety of the first responders, that they don't have to break a glass down, and they don't have to go through, an entry that's not, available to them. And secondly, it could substantially reduce some insurance opportunities for people that have commercial properties, because then the door, the windows, or whatever won't have to be broken. There should be an easier access, so.
Dan, is this something, since it's not going to be, retro, that
Future.
if somebody comes in to do 50% or more renovation on a commercial building?
Anybody comes in for a site plan or renovation,
Site plan waivers or renovations will be made to upgrade?
you need to get an approval from the township to modify your commercial establishment. You're going to have to make arrangements for the lock
I just
box.
want to make sure it was on the record that that was part of it.
It's stated in the new ordinance.
Okay.
It doesn't specifically state site plan,
I know.
doesn't specifically state site plan waiver, but they have to come before the board, and you're well aware of what site plan waiver says.
Sure.
If it needs upgrading and blah, blah, so if you have a facility that say, you know what, they should have a security box, the planning board can say, put it in a security
Yeah,
box.
I know it doesn't say it there, but maybe try to clarify it now, so it goes out there. They're going to be required.
They're going to be required if you come back into the board.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So if there isn't any other comment, I'm going to open it up for the public hearing portion. Would anyone from the audience like to address the Township Committee on this particular ordinance?
Anybody but Jay.
Yes, sir. Could you go up to the podium and state your name and address, because we're taping it and we need to have you closer to the microphone.
Right behind you there.
Right back here.
Paul Zarin, 14 Luke Court. Having run other businesses in the past in other municipalities, that box you're referring to, keys have been lost, and there has to be some kind of system to follow up to make sure that key is available. Because once it's set up, nobody ever messes with it except for thieves. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay. And I think that's a good input, that, maybe part of the plan will be have a process for, making
And
sure.
I think Jay Newman was going to address that.
Okay.
So short and sweet, Jay.
Jay Newman, Chief of the Marmora Fire Company, and also be representing the Upper Township Chiefs Association. To address Mr. Zarin's concerns, the Upper Township Chiefs Association asked for this ordinance. There are, I don't know if you're talking about the keys in the boxes themselves or the keys that we have.
No, the keys in the boxes.
There have been, and there's always exceptions to this, but there have been, these boxes are in use in probably, I would say, at least 50% of the municipalities across the country. Are there issues? As with anything, there are issues, but they are pretty much tamper-proof if they're installed correctly. The master keys will be held by individual fire companies. It's a master key for the whole township. As you saw tonight earlier, we assist each other in every way, shape, or form. These boxes can only be opened by a code that is given to the code that's recorded, and that code is identifiable to only the officers in the company that are responsible for that particular key. So the key is held in the apparatus, or there'll be one in my vehicle as well. Punch the code in to release the key. We then can access the box that will allow us not to break your door down, and to allow us, and usually in there is kept a key to get in, and maybe a code to the fire alarm system and some contact information. And we're usually able to get a hold of somebody to come and secure the building, and that's what we do. We also will leave record of entry if we have to do it, but what it saves us is time, and it saves us from knocking down a multiple $1,000 door if an alarm's going off and we cannot access to investigate it. We've had a different system in place in Marmora Fire District for probably 15 years. We've had no incidents in which anybody's tampered with any of them, and we've had multiple incidents of which they have saved us a lot of time and effort. The key boxes, we've had, and all of our businesses that have them, plus several additional, are requesting these. We're getting multiple requests right now, at least in our fire district. And as you know, we put them in all the township buildings.
And it's not, I'll take it past businesses. There is a municipality in our county that has requested them on all new construction of homes.
Yes, there are, that do that as well.
It's going to be a thing of the future, it's a time and a lifesaver.
I think part of what his question is, and I've experienced too, is the key getting back into the box after the incident is over.
Right, okay, well.
So, do you have a mechanism set up with your people that somebody's in charge of that?
Yes, that's.
So that answers the question.
Whoever takes the key out is in charge of putting the key back in.
Because you know how it is, sometimes
Oh, yeah.
it hits the fan and the last thing you're thinking about is putting a key back into a box. So.
That is correct. That is correct.
I'm sure, knowing the chiefs and the way they operate, they will have an SOP put together at the
Yes.
chiefs meeting.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to address the Township Committee on this ordinance? Okay, it appears there's no further public comment. Thank you for the 2 comments that were received this evening. I'll close the public portion of the hearing and entertain a motion for adoption.
Move we adopt ordinance number 3 of 2019.
Second.
Let's call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Item number 16, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 5, 2019, an ordinance revising job classifications and titles and amending Chapter 5 entitled Personnel of the Code of Upper Township. If you move forward, we could have the public hearing on April 29th.
Make a motion to introduce ordinance number 5-2019.
Second. And that date will be April 29th for the public hearing.
Yes.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Carried. Item number 17, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6, 2019, and ordinance amending ordinance number 21, 2018, known as the salary ordinance for the calendar year 2019. And again, the public hearing on April 29th will work.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 6-2019.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 18, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 7, 2019, an ordinance amending revised general ordinance, Chapter 10 of the Code of Upper Township. Public hearing the same, April 29th.
Make a motion to introduce ordinance number 7-2019.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 19, under new business, bid results for the reconstruction of Commonwealth Avenue Phase 1 and Bayview Drive Phase 3 project.
Paul, give
Thank
us
you.
some update.
Yeah, this is a project that is 2 projects. One is the reconstruction of Commonwealth Avenue, which both these projects are in Strathmere. The Commonwealth Avenue project has extensive drainage work and raising of the road. Bayview Drive is a more simple reconstruction of the road, raising the profile to provide proper drainage, but does not have any real drainage infrastructure. The total bid for both those projects was $597,440.70 from Landberg Construction. There were 4 other bidders with the high bid just over $737,000. We did have, for each of those projects, we do have a DOT grant money for the projects. However, as we had discussed at previous meeting, because of the amount of drainage work, the grant money doesn't cover the total cost, so we will have to use some additional funds out of our municipal bond for the road paving project to help cover the costs.
So how much grant did we get?
We got a total of
175.
$175,000 for Bayview Drive and $158,000 for Commonwealth Avenue.
We got
So that's,
two-thirds.
Yeah, about,
So it's about
a little
half.
over, yes.
okay, great.
And there were no other, there were no issues with the bid. They had all the proper documentation with the bid documents. The company, though they have not done any work for the township, I am familiar with other work that they have done for the county and other locations, and I would make a recommendation that we award the bid, but we also have to get concurrence from the DOT before we would sign the contract with Lambert Construction.
Someone like to make that motion?
How long would it take DOT to respond? Is this,
I'm hoping to be able to, possibly before the next meeting, have their concurrence. We can still make our recommendation of award of resolution at a next meeting. We just cannot send out the contract documents to be signed.
when are we planning on doing this?
They can start at any time. However, I did put in the bid specifications that from Memorial Day to Labor Day to have no work being done. Depending on the timing frame, the work on Bayview Drive could be completed in a short period of time because there's no drainage work. It's just doing curb work and some road work. So, a contractor could come in, get some of that work done, and then have the rest of the work completed in the fall.
So Memorial Day to Labor, there's no construction?
Correct.
Well, right now, we're 6 weeks to Memorial
So I
Day.
was,
The contractor would have to be able to come in and be able to do that work, or they may just decide to wait till the fall and then do it in the fall.
And if they get to a stop point, are you making them have certain specifications as far as how far it has to be done? We don't want a road tour up.
These are all short, Bayview Drive is 2 blocks and, Commonwealth Avenue is 2 blocks. So there's really not something, it's not a long length of a project. No,
Down the stone and potholes
Yeah.
in the middle of the summer.
And in Commonwealth Avenue with the drainage and the raising of the road with the drainage, there'd be no way that you could build part of it and leave it because it'd be up too much in the air. So, those are discussion we'll have at the pre-construction meeting, but I would anticipate that at most they'll be able to do would be Bayview Drive before the summertime, or they would do both sections after Labor Day.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to accept the bids for Commonwealth Avenue Phase 1 and Bayview Drive Phase 3.
Second.
Let's call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Now, that's subject to a resolution.
There'll be a resolution on the next meeting,
Basically, you're authorizing the resolution to be prepared
as well
with the
as...
appropriate conditions with the DOT.
Correct.
Just clarify.
That's why you're here.
Good thing I wasn't late.
1 minute.
Item number 20, Aaron Whitcomb, Colo, Post 239, American Legion, request to hold a raffle number 516 on June 28, 2019, at the Heritage Links Golf Course.
Motion to allow?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 21, request to purchase township-owned property, block 322, lot 40.
This has a little bit of a unique aspect to it. I'll let Paul explain the situation with the requester, but there are adjacent properties that are vacant, and as I understand from Paul, they have environmental constraints that we anticipate they are not buildable. I'm sure I don't have to remind the committee, but your standard approach to these requests is we'll grant them as long as they don't create another residential house that otherwise would be there. Because there are vacant adjacent properties that may not currently be buildable. If you sold this property to them and they merged it, then it becomes buildable. So you may want, if you This person, as I understand it, Paul, wants it as an ancillary
Yes.
part of his lot to build maybe a building.
The garage,
a
right,
garage.
let's build a detached garage.
So you may want to do what you've done in the past sometimes, is put a condition that it cannot be used as a primary use, but only an ancillary use to an adjacent property, or ancillary permitted use,
And those,
accessory.
Absolutely.
That'd be a condition of, if you go forward, that would be a condition of the sale, and also probably a deed restriction. Obviously, if people, adjacent property owners buy it, and they can build a primary building on their existing lot, then they would have been able to do that anyway, and that doesn't matter, you're not creating any more residential than you would have.
and under that,
Obviously, the residential's concern is the negative tax consequences.
and the only house that they could have built, at least on the one lot, would be, under our ordinance, would be an affordable housing house on the one set of lots.
But.
But with the environmental restrictions,
Aren't there environmental restrictions on that?
yeah, the environmental restrictions on all the adjacent lots would preclude.
Including the one you just referred to?
Yes.
Okay. But with our lot, with this new lot, it increases the size of that small lot,
But still, no.
but it
not-
still has environmental restrictions on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to move, we proceed with that.
With those conditions.
With those conditions.
Second.
We'll bring it back to you for an ordinance.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 22, Cape May County Center Line Rumble Strip installations.
What are we talking about here, Paul?
If you recall, it might have been 1 or 2 years ago, the county had sent over a list, they wanted to do centerline rumble strips, and it was like almost the entire length of almost all the county roads within the township. We had several discussions here at committee regarding it. It looks like they heeded some of our suggestions, and the list that they're proposing now are some of the more rural roads and the higher speed roads in the township, and significantly less number of roads, and they're not near populated or, high residential areas. So they're looking for a recommendation actually this week to see if we would be acceptable with those roads. It's the first one's Weatherby Road from Route 49 to the Dennis Township line, Washington Avenue, County Route 557, Seneca Lane to Marshall Road. That's probably one of the roads that has some scattered residential.
But it also has a significant amount of accidents.
And high speed travel. Tuckahoe Road from Route 50 to Perry Road, just right up, almost approaching here. And then further down County Road, Tuckahoe Road, which would be from Tyler Road to Cedar Avenue. I think they meant, probably meant Church. I'll have to double check that terminus.
Can we request that any place that has residents should be a no passing zone if they're going to put rumble strips in?
None of, besides Washington Avenue, all of these are not, there's
Washington
no
Avenue is
residential.
An example, cars going down there 50, 60 mile an hour and passing. The rumble strips don't stop anything except for make noise. I see the issue on them, but to me, they're not made for passing zones, they're made for no passing, so if somebody dozes off, it wakes them up and gets them back on the lane.
There's 3 houses along there. There's 3 houses.
I don't
along
care
this.
if it's one house, I know where I live, with a passing zone, it's unbearable. And I'm 200 feet off the road. I can't even open my windows up, and all I hear all day long is that. Between the tractor trailer traffic, it usually winds up one tire always hitting the rumble strip. There should be no passing zones if they're gonna have rumble strips, no residential whatsoever. And that's the only way, I think the only way I can endorse this.
Any more? You were on Church Road or Tuckahoe Road from?
And then Ocean Drive, over in Strathmere, from Corson's Inlet Bridge to heading north to the Ocean City line.
That's just ridiculous. From the,
Not
on the,
south.
yeah.
On the other
He
side,
said north.
towards the Rush Chatton
So I
Bridge.
guess CL chimed in on that too.
Yeah, this is not in,
Does it include the bridge?
no.
They're built in.
So those are the only roads.
So, but there are some homes that are on the
Washington.
opposite side, yeah. It's Strathmere.
No, this is the section from the Corson's Inlet Bridge heading north to Ocean City.
Oh, on the causeway.
Yeah, it's
On the
Okay.
causeway section.
That's a no-brainer there. That's, what are they gonna wake
Yeah,
up
there, I have
seagulls?
an issue. I think, again, anywhere that's around a residential area should not have it. I mean, if it's 200 feet away from it, I can hear them pass in front of Earth Techs, and then pass a quarter mile down the road again, coming back over the same lane. And I mean, all my neighbors are upset about it also. There's nothing we can do now, but I'll guarantee you the head of the DOT doesn't have that in front of his house. It's basically made us all close our windows and live inside, because you can't even enjoy your yard with it. It's nonstop. So I think we should, my recommendation, they should recommend that anything that has residential becomes a no passing zone, so you don't go through.
Also, there's only 3 homes affected.
No.
And where are they at?
They're between Seneca Lane heading towards,
Can we endorse this and just request that they don't put it in the passing zone because people are passing?
where there's residential properties.
Yes.
I can do that. I mean, they're looking for a letter, so if I can.
We can make that in the form of a letter. I'd like to make that in the form of a motion. We say yes with the exception of the passing zones out by those 3 dwellings.
And what I'll do is, before I write the letter, I can make an inspection out on Washington to verify and even list the house numbers that would be affected if it's in a passing zone.
And again, I mean, out there is even more rural than where I'm at, you know.
Sure.
The sound travels ungodly, so.
I will make that in the form of a motion.
Is there a
Thank you,
second?
Kurt.
Second.
Let's call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Condon?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Okay. Item number 23, Upper Township Planning Board's review of the Upper Township Zoning Board Annual Report and recommendations.
I just want to touch base with you on this. We did get a response from the planning board on the zoning board's requests. The only item that they recommended was the temporary use permit for trailers, that be increased from 1 year to 2. I agree with that. I also agree with their reluctance to recommend the setback of 15 feet from the structure of any pool. I see it in other towns. It's not really a safety issue. I know that some members of the zoning board are concerned about it, but I think it would create more problems, especially on undersized lots and variance applications that I just can't imagine them not being granted.
And their concerns are already, you know, our construction code, OCA code addresses,
Permits it, yeah.
they permit it to be within 5 feet.
If it was that big of a safety
So-
issue, the code wouldn't permit it.
And we used to have it 15 years ago,
I
and we
mean,
changed it.
new designs sometimes have cantilever pools, where part of it's under a canopy and the other part is
Yeah.
Well, the
outside.
putting in backyards over in Stone Harbor Avenue, where it's supposed to stay.
Sure.
So,
And the cell tower is not necessary because there's a footnote in the ordinance that already takes care of that. So my recommendation is to accept the temporary use permit for the trailers from 1 year to 2, and next time we're doing a land use ordinance change, Paul will put that on the list. If you agree with that, then probably a motion and a second, just we'll put it on our notes.
I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
yes.
Mr. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Okay, item number 24, request for streetlight at Mariners Cove and Summers Avenue.
So this is the one where we're talking about replacing the lamp with LED lamp to see if that covers the
Correct.
area better?
Correct, right? Because my understanding was that the residents were having, that it was fairly dark between their home back in the cul-de-sac out to the bus stop out at Summers Avenue, and just wanting some increased light. Everybody knows that the older street lights, and this is one of the older streets, that as those lamps age, especially the older high-pressure sodium ones, they decrease in their intensity. The newer LED lights have a more whiter light, and it'll provide a little more illumination. So the recommendation was to replace those lights and see if that provides sufficient illumination, and if it doesn't, then we can, readdress and look at having to add an additional light.
So were they replaced?
Excuse me?
They weren't replaced yet?
No, we have to authorize, it's going to be $1,698 to replace the 2 fixtures with the LED. So we need that authorized so that we can have them replaced.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the request.
I'll second that. Would you call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cobb?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Would someone like to make a motion to pay the bills?
I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment at this meeting be approved and then incorporated into the full minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Would you call the roll?
Yes.
Mr. Cobb?
Yes.
Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
There are no reports from the municipal departments this evening, so we'll move right on to the public comment. Would anyone like to address the Township Committee at this time? I would ask that you go up to the podium, state your name and your address and your reason for addressing the Township Committee.
If I may. Committeeman Young, I agree with your assessment.
wait.
Oh, Larry Truly, Marmora, 430 South Shore. Thank you. I agree with your assessment on the rumble, no passing strips. I live within 200 feet of Route 9, and when they go by and hit that, it's... So, in the residential areas, I agree with your whole assessment of that situation. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the Township Committee? All right, it sounds like that we've completed the public comment portion. I'll close the public comment portion and turn to Committeeman Coggins to make a motion to go into executive session.
I hereby move that a resolution be incorporated into the minutes authorizing the Township Committee to enter into an executive session for the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Matters are litigation, Holt versus the Upper Township Zoning Board of Adjustment, contract negotiation for information technology services, a design and engineering consultant, and a communications consultant, and personnel. I also include in my motions the estimated time and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public as follows. It is anticipated that the matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. With respect to employment and personnel matters, such discussions will be made public if and when formal action is taken, or when the individuals involved consent that it can be made public. With respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality. With respect to litigation matters, such discussions will be made public when litigation is complete and the applicable appeal period has expired.
Second. Call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cobb?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Have a great evening, everyone. Please drive safely home.